My name is Manohar, and I am a simple farmer. My world, once filled with the smell of wet earth and the joy of a good harvest, had shrunk. It was now confined to the four walls of this hospital room. The air here is heavy. It smells of medicine and fear. The constant beeping of machines has become the soundtrack to my life. Every beep is a reminder of the battle my son, my little Rohan, is fighting. He lies on the bed, his small body connected to so many tubes and wires. His eyes are closed, but I know he is fighting. He is fighting an enemy we cannot see, an enemy that the doctors call a rare disease. The silence in this room is deafening. It is broken only by the doctor's footsteps or a nurse's soft voice. They come and go, their faces filled with a professional calm, but I can see the worry in their eyes. I watch my wife, Sarita, as she sits by Rohan's side. She holds his hand, her lips moving in a silent prayer. We haven't slept properly in days. We haven't eaten a proper meal. Our lives have come to a standstill. All that matters is the rise and fall of Rohan's chest. Every breath he takes is a small victory for us. But the war is far from over. The doctors say he needs a special operation, an operation that costs a fortune. The hospital corridors feel like a maze of despair. Every person I see carries a burden of their own. Their faces tell stories of pain and hope, much like my own. I walk these halls when the anxiety becomes too much to bear. I look out the window at the city lights, a world that seems so distant and uncaring. Back in my village, life was simple. Our problems were about the rain, the crops, the price of seeds. We faced them together as a community. But here, in this big, cold city, we are all alone. We are just another family facing a tragedy, another number in a hospital file. The doctors have given us a deadline. They say the operation must happen soon. Time is running out for my son. The thought sends a shiver down my spine. How can I fail him? A father is supposed to be his child's protector, his hero. But I feel so powerless. I look at my rough, calloused hands. These are the hands that have tilled the soil and brought life for me. But now, I feel useless. I cannot create the living being that stands between my son and his life. This feeling of hopelessness is a poison. It seeps into your soul and slowly eats you away. Back in our village, the news of Rohan's illness had spread like wildfire. Our small community, our family, came forward to help. Neighbors who had little to spare offered what they could. Relatives broke their savings. They all wanted to see Rohan healthy and running through the fields again. The village headman organized a collection. People gave what they could, from a handful of rupees to their blessings. I was touched by their kindness. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, humanity shines through. But the mountain of money we needed was too high. The collection was just a small hill at its base. The days turned into a blur of frantic phone calls and desperate pleas. I borrowed money from everyone I knew. I approached the local moneylender, a man known for his cruel interest rates. I knew it was a trap, a debt I might never escape. But what choice did I have? I would have walked through fire for my son. The moneylender looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. He gave me a small amount, a pittance compared to what was needed. He knew my desperation. He knew I was cornered. I took the money, my hands trembling with a mix of gratitude and dread. Every door I knocked on seemed to close in my face. The bank denied my loan application. They looked at my simple clothes and my farmer's hands and saw a risk. They did not see a father trying to save his child. They saw numbers and collateral, things I did not have. My heart grew heavier with each rejection. The hope that had flickered within me began to dim. Sarita tried to stay strong for me, for Rohan, but at night I would hear her silent sobs. It broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. We were fighting a losing battle, and the enemy was money. Finally, there was only one thing left: my land. the piece of earth that had been in my family for generations. It was more than just a field to me. It was my identity, my legacy. It was the land my father had taught me to cultivate. The land where Rohan took his first steps. The thought of selling it felt like selling a part of my soul. But my son's life was worth more than any piece of land. With a heavy heart, I made the decision. I would sell my ancestral farm. It was the ultimate sacrifice. But for Rohan, I would do it without a second thought. I went to see my oldest friend, Keshav. We had grown up together, played in the same fields, and shared every secret. He was more like a brother to me. I found him near the village well, his face etched with worry. When I told him my decision to sell the farm, he looked at me in shock. "Manohar, have you lost your mind?" he exclaimed. "That land is everything we have. It is our family's honor. You cannot sell it." I explained my situation, my voice cracking with emotion. I told him there was no other way. The hospital bills were piling up, and Rohan's time was running out. Keshav listened patiently, his hand on my shoulder. He understood my pain, my desperation, but he refused to accept my decision. "There has to be another way," he insisted. "Selling the land is the last resort, not the first. Once it's gone forever. What will you do then? How will you live?" His words were harsh, but they came from a place of love and concern. He knew the bond I shared with my land. He knew that losing it would break me. He pleaded with me to wait, to think, to explore every other possibility before taking such a drastic step. He fell silent for a long time, lost in thought. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the village. Just as I was about to leave, thinking he had no other solution, he looked at me with a strange intensity in his eyes. "Manohar," he said in a low whisper, "there might be one other way. It is dangerous, it is filled with risk, but the reward could solve all our problems." I looked at him, confused. What was he talking about? His voice was barely audible, as if he was afraid of someone else hearing him. "Have you heard the stories?" he asked. "The stories about the old abandoned Haveli at the edge of the village? The one nobody dares to go near after dark?" Of course I had heard the stories. Every child in the village grew up with them. Tales of ghosts and strange noises. But they were just stories, meant to scare children. "They say there is a treasure hidden there," Keshav continued, his eyes wide. "A treasure so vast it could make us kings. But it is protected, guarded." I stared at him, a mix of disbelief and a tiny spark of desperate hope igniting within me. Keshav began to tell me the story. It was a story passed down through generations, spoken only in hushed tones. The story of the Ramgarh Haveli. Decades ago, the Haveli belonged to a wealthy but cruel landlord named Vishambar. He was obsessed with wealth and power. He had a trusted aide, a man named Haraya, who was skilled in the dark arts, a tantric. Together they amassed a great fortune, not just through legal means, but by preying on the weak and indulging in forbidden practices. The villagers feared them. They whispered that Vishambar had made a pact with dark forces to protect his wealth. As Vishambar grew old, his paranoia grew. He trusted no one. He became convinced that everyone was after his gold and jewels. He did not even trust his own family. So, he and Hariya devised a plan, a dark and terrible plan to hide his treasure where no one would ever find it. They chose a secret chamber deep within the Haveli, but simply hiding it was not enough for Vishambar. He wanted a guardian for his treasure, a guardian that would never sleep, never tire, and never be swayed by greed, a guardian born of a dark ritual. Keshav's voice dropped even lower. He told me about the ritual. Vishambar and Hariya performed a powerful tantric sadhana, a forbidden rite. They needed to bind a spirit to the treasure. The legends say they sacrificed a loyal servant, tricking him into believing he was part of a ritual for prosperity. In his last moments, they performed the rites, trapping his soul. They bound his spirit to the chamber, turning him into a paradar, a spectral guardian. His only purpose for eternity was to protect the treasure from any and all intruders. He would be the eternal watchman. After the ritual, something changed in the Haveli. Vishambar and Hariya were never seen again. Some say they were consumed by the very forces they had unleashed. Others say they fled, fearing their own creation. The Haveli was abandoned. It fell into ruin. People who dared to venture near it spoke of strange whispers, chilling cries, and a feeling of being watched. The story became a warning. The treasure was real, but it was cursed. It was protected by a restless spirit, a guardian who would show no mercy to those who tried to steal its master's gold. The legend of the Paradar was not just a simple ghost story. It came with specific warnings and conditions. Keshav explained that according to the old tales, the path to the treasure was not just physically hidden, but also mystically sealed. The ritual performed by Vishambar and Hariya had laid down a set of rules. The treasure would only reveal itself under specific circumstances. It was a test, a challenge designed to filter out the unworthy. The first condition was that the treasure could only be sought on the night of a new moon, when the darkness was absolute and the veil between worlds was thin. The stories also spoke of greed. The Paradar, the spectral guardian, was said to have a unique ability. It could sense the intentions of anyone who entered the Haveli. If someone came with a heart full of greed, seeking the treasure for their own selfish desires, the guardian's wrath would be swift and terrible. Many had tried over the years, brave and foolish men, tempted by the promise of immense wealth. They entered the Haveli on a new moon night, full of arrogance and greed. None of them ever returned. Their disappearances only added to the terrifying reputation of the Haveli and its guardian. There was, however, a loophole, a sliver of hope in the dark tale. The legend said that the guardian might show mercy to someone with a pure and desperate heart, someone who was not driven by greed, but by a selfless need, someone who needed the treasure not for power or luxury, but to save a life. The guardian, in its past life, was a simple man. Perhaps a part of that humanity remained. Perhaps it could recognize true desperation and noble purpose. This was the part of the story that Keshav clung to. He believed my purpose, to save Rohan, was pure enough to pass the Guardian's test. "Your need is not born of greed, Manohar," Keshav said, his voice filled with conviction. "You are a father trying to save his son. This is the purest reason of all. The Paradar might see that. It might let you pass." He told me a story his grandfather used to tell, about a man who had entered the Haveli to find a rare herb for his dying wife. The legend says the man returned, not with gold, but with the herb he needed, which had mysteriously appeared before him. The story was unverified, a whisper from the past. But for me, in my darkest hour, it was a ray of light, a dangerous, terrifying ray of light. Listening to Keshav, a storm of emotions raged inside me. Fear was the most dominant one. I am a farmer, a man of the earth. I believe in hard work and the cycle of seasons. I do not believe in ghosts and ancient curses. The logical part of my brain screamed that this was madness. To risk my life based on a village folktale was insane. The thought of the haunted Haveli, of a spectral guardian, sent a cold shiver down my spine. What if the stories were true? What would happen to Sarita and Rohan if I did not return? The fear was paralyzing. But then, I saw Rohan's face in my mind, his small, pale face on the hospital pillow. I heard the constant, monotonous beeping of the machines keeping him alive. That image, that sound was more terrifying than any ghost story. The fear of losing my son was greater than the fear of any Paradar. What was the alternative? To sell my land, my heritage, and still not have enough money? To sit by and watch my son fade away because I was too scared to try? No, I could not live with that. A father's love is a powerful force. It can make a man do things he never thought possible. I looked at Keshav, my oldest friend, who was suggesting this insane plan because he cared for me. He was willing to risk facing this legend with me. His belief in me gave me strength. My desperation was a fire that burned away my fear. This was not about greed. It was about love. It was about a father's duty. My purpose was pure. I had to believe that the guardian, if it existed, would see that. I had to hold on to that single thread of hope, no matter how thin it was. This was a chance, perhaps my only chance. A new resolve settled in my heart. I would face this challenge. I would walk into that Haveli. I would face the darkness, the silence, and whatever lay within. For Rohan. When is the next new moon? I asked Keshav, my voice steady and firm. A look of surprise, followed by respect, appeared on his face. The decision was made. The path was chosen. We did not know what awaited us in the decaying halls of the Ramgarh Haveli. We did not know if we would find a treasure or our own end, but we knew we had to try. Our journey into the heart of the mystery was about to begin.